Welcome back, all of you music lovers and new listeners that we may have this week. We're here for another exciting edition of Battle of the Ballads, and we are on the year 2010. And
Woo!
We walked away with Alicia Keys taking the first chunk of 2000s. Great track. A lot of folks voted for it. We agreed on it despite what our heart told us about other tracks. An amazing track. And so now we are on to our next decade. And the beautiful thing of where we're at right now is we should close out our 2021 with not only our song of the year for 2021, but a review of the year right after the new year, if all goes as planned. So it's exciting and unplanned.
Well, you mentioned that. I need like 3 weeks. I have to not be here, so we might miss that.
So Joseph and I will plug along. And
so I think Gregory's joking, but I actually am TDY one of the weeks.
Crushing me.
So
crushing me. It was the best unplanned plan of all time.
I know. I'll try to keep us on track and come up with a list. I'll be in New Mexico, so I'll be on the same time zone. So it should be doable.
I think you should have the kids take your spot that week.
Man, I don't think you guys would get a word in during that podcast.
Oh, so it'll be just like living at my house.
Everything Dan and I say, Audie would respond with, "I know you're joking."
So it would be just like being at my house. I've heard from, and I want those listening, while you're liking and subscribing to this video, I want you to know that I know the algorithm's all jacked up, especially in the last couple of weeks while Facebook moves into their next venture.
Meta.
I know that it's not getting out there, even with tags. And Gregory found that out this week, that there's specific things you have to do in comments for people to see it and stuff like that. So if you didn't get to leave your track this week, I do apologize. I'm going to make my own comments on the next post asking for feedback with, I believe it was 6 words, right, Greg?
Yeah. So for those that are interested, I read a thing that tags actually don't really do much for sharing. Unless you're me and Dan. I was telling Dan yesterday that when he tags me in something, I get double notification for it because everything Dan puts on Facebook, I get a notification for already.
You're welcome.
But yeah, like a GIF or just a couple word response or comment does nothing to boost the algorithm. It's got to be at least 6 words in both a comment and a reply, which is crazy, and it all just comes down to Facebook wanting us to pay to boost our stuff.
So
I am now only leaving 5-word comments on everything,
and I'm going to leave 6 middle fingers emojis to every comment that you leave.
If you think about it, a lot of the generic encouraging comments are like, "Hey, that's awesome. 4.
Yeah. Yep.
Great job, man. 4." So it just, they picked the right number to really make you leave a real genuine comment.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, but I'm going to try to boost it. But for those who did respond, we had some really great responses this week. Our usual players got in. Corey Banker gave us Blue and Evil from Joe Bonamassa, Just Tonight from The Pretty Reckless, Airplanes from B.O.B. Didn't say 1 or 2, but I'm going to say both probably. TikTok from Kesha and Just the Way You Are from Bruno Mars. Our guy Tim Carter gave us What You Know from Two Door Cinema Club, What You Say, and In My Head from Jason Derulo. And with honorable mentions to The Script, Sugarland, and Kesha. And he also said, to this day, nobody has taught him how to Dougie, and I will take full responsibility for that. And Tim, I will teach you this weekend, my friend.
I was about to say, get our boy Royal out to Rochester, because
we'll see what Dougie action kind of happens here, but I do apologize. I feel like I failed you on that one, my friend. Moving forward off of that, friend of the show, Ellen Sadler, gave us If I Die Young from the band Perry, Just the Way You Are from Bruno. She said debut single, ! Alejandro from Lady Gaga, King of Anything from my girl Sarah Bareilles. I Like It from Enrique, Teenage Dream from Katy Perry, Back to December from Taylor Swift. She said, one of a handful of Taylor songs I like, Sorry, Dan, and everyone else, and you should be sorry, Malin. Taylor is a saint.
I'm sorry for even liking that one, Ellen. Stay strong.
God damn you, Gregory. Telephone from Mother Monster and Queen Bee. And keeping the Disney train rolling, I See the Light from Tangled, which Tangled is a very slept on soundtrack. I thoroughly enjoy that one. And I like that she's kept that running with us. Kevin Davis gave us Runaway by Kanye, or Ye. or whatever he wants to be called this week.
Yee.
Paul Brenner gave us That Was the Foster the People Pumped Up Kicks Here. That song was everywhere. Gonna have to give it to Rihanna's Only Girl in the World, though, which is a great track. Friend of the show, Jeff Warden, gave us Lady Gaga, Bad Romance was and still is a very strong song. I don't like her music really, but that song does a lot of great things. It's got 90s dance vibes to it, which was step out of her normal stuff and anything that was cool at the time. So it's covered all over the place, like On the Rocks from Oregon University's Apocalyptica group, Future Idiots, pop punk group, Hailstorm, hard rock, and postmodern jukebox, big band, as well as metal version, soft rock, and everything. And he said another one that would be his pick would be Tile Cruz, Dynamite, which for a second I didn't know what that song was, and then I listened to him like, oh my god, the song's everywhere.
Yeah,
he said not much to say other than that it's a song that will likely live on in weddings for years to come because it's such a fun song for the dance floor, and you get to say "ayo" a lot, like a lot. And he's not wrong. I actually like the song name I forgot about, but because I remember Tile Cruz for I think it was "Break Your Heart" is the song I remember the most, and Dynamite was always just one of those songs that kind of existed, but he's so right, it'll live on forever. Tom Hernandez gave us Uprising by Muse. And Justin Zane closed out with A Day to Remember Is All I Want, Katy Perry's Firework, The Script for the First Time, CeeLo's Fuck You, Vampire Weekend, Giving Up the Gun, The Black Keys, Tighten Up, Lonely Island and Akon, I Just Had Sex, Taylor Swift, Mean, Arcade Fire, Ready to Start, and Cake, Sick of You. So we had quite a blend of music here. Going back to Jeff's comments regarding the Lady Gaga stuff, Jeff is the person I was with. I think you may remember, I think it was 2 years ago, I mentioned, or well, 2 years ago for us, but 2 weeks ago, where on St. Patty's Day, I got so sick of hearing Dropkick Murphys that I put on Lady Gaga on the jukebox endlessly. And Jeff was one of the folks who was with me when I did that. And everybody in the bar was commenting, but it needed to be done. So Gaga for the win there. Great list, actually. And Gregory, I think we had some debuts that could be questionable of whether or not they're actually debuts that year coming in here, but I think we had some fun ones too. And I'm wondering what you came up with.
All right, so my list isn't that long because there are some that are questionable, but Kesha, I mean, this was a huge year for her. She'd been featured on a few things before then. But yeah, she released the first album and the first EP, so she'd had a double release, a lot of double releases this year. So I'll get into a couple of those as we go on. Nick Jonas and The Administration, their one and only album was this year. Marina and the Diamonds, a Welsh folk singer. She's going under, I think, just her regular name now, but this was her debut album. Two Door Cinema was mentioned, a band I think everyone kind of knows. I've never really gotten into them, but yeah. Broken Bells, continuing Danger Mouse's run of dominance over music. That was with James Macer of The Shins. That debut album was this year. And I have a lot of props this year. I've been slacking on props as I was looking through to grab these ones, but I do have quite a few for this year. Neon Trees, another band that I never really got too into. Justin Bieber, technically his debut studio album is this year. Slash, his debut album, and it had a little bit of everyone on it.
All the cameos.
Yeah, all the cameos. B.O.B. was mentioned. Debut album. Comedian and rapper Open Mike Eagle, his debut album was this year. I like Open Mike Eagle as a personality. Anytime he's on a podcast, I'm always excited to hear. I've never listened to his music, so that's a confession from me. Janelle Monae, kind of her second album, but first like big studio album. She had a big year, not a double release for her, but she appears on Big Boy's album as well.
I hope she plays Storm in the MCU. Just throwing it out there.
She's just Janelle Monae is amazing. Tempe Impala debut album. Sleigh Bells, so another Bells duo indie rock. I saw them open for Red Hot Chili Peppers. Unfortunately, they are not an arena band, and it was very clear that day they were not an arena band. Drake, his debut album. And then the double Brandons, Brandon Boyd and Brandon Flowers, both released their solo debuts. And of course, it's not a year in music if we don't have an actor releasing a debut solo or debut album. Emily Osment released her album this year. I think she's the only of the Osment children who's released an album, but don't quote me on that because
there's no way Joel hasn't released an album.
I don't know. If you watch Secondhand Lions, If you watch Secondhand Lions and watch his voice crack, I don't think he's releasing music. I remember
think
him.
Didn't Gwyneth Paltrow release her debut that year too?
Who?
Gwyneth
I didn't
Paltrow?
see the Gwyneth
Who?
Paltrow listed. So if someone wants to look that up for us and tell us in the comments in a 6-word response. Motionless in White is, just to throw a little bit of metal in there, their debut albums this year. Indie band Bad Books debut album. Bruno Mars, as was mentioned, like this is his debut album. And in the self-titled reign, the band Violent Soho, their second album was self-titled, and Interpol, their fourth album was self-titled and released this year.
Indeed.
There was another fourth album that was self-titled this year too, and I can't think of who it was now.
It's possible. Joe did his really quick. I did it only took me slightly longer. So I probably only spent an hour and 10 minutes where I usually spend like 2.5 on these things. So I went pretty quick this week.
Slacker.
Yeah, this was kind of a down year for me. There's a couple albums I really liked. But overall, it's just enforcing. I mentioned I stopped listening to like new music in like 07, 08-ish time frame, and it's really bearing true in like the early 10s here.
Yeah, I'm noticing because I already did 2011 for me to get ahead for the other stuff I have going on, and so I'm noticing my lists are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. But Joseph, what do you got for us?
Okay, so I did something slightly different this week. I talked about the Punk Goes series of albums for the first time during last year, and I've decided I'm just going to start making a list of my favorite Punk Go songs to do kind of in the beginning of my list, because I don't want to really count it with my regular list, because I don't do too many covers. I've done a couple. So I'm gonna starting my list because I think there's at least one Punk Goes album from this point on through 2017. So for the next few weeks, I'm gonna have at least a couple. So there were 2 different Punk Goes albums for 2010: Punk Goes Classic Rock and Punk Goes Pop Volume 3. The Classic Rock album's actually fantastic. I really enjoy hearing really well-known songs just with a slightly different take to them. And kind of my 2 favorite from that, We the Kings, pop punk band that a lot of people know. I'm a big fan of the lead singer's voice. They covered Caught Up in You, and their version's amazing. And then Every Avenue did a cover of Take Me Home Tonight. And that's a song I just love in general. And then just to hear it with a slightly different take is fun. And then off the Punk Goes Pop Volume 3, We Came as Romans is a post-hardcore band similar to like A Day to Remember that I'm a big fan of. And they did a cover of My Love for this album that slaps harder than the original, in my opinion. Mayday Parade did a cover of In My Head that, if you like Jason Lancaster's voice, you'll enjoy this song. If you don't, pass on it. And then Asking Alexandria does a cover of Right Now that is, and again, in my opinion, better than the original, but people will fight me on that one. But so I just wanted to give a quick little rundown of my favorite Punk Goes for the year, and then we'll move on to my actual list. Neon Trees, band Gregory mentioned not being that big into. I actually own their first 3 albums. I actually really like Neon Trees. And this was a great album. Girls and Boys in School is kind of there on my short list. If you have not listened to more of their stuff, I know they had a couple real popular ones that got on the radio. You should go back and listen to this album. It's really good. Story of the Year, The Ghost of You and I was released this year. That's a great track from Story of the Year. If you like Until the Day I Die, go listen to this one as well. Kesha, of course, is a big artist in mine and Gregory's life. We will be going on the Kesha cruise with Amanda here coming up in
Really?
April. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
I went in February of 19 as well, the first time she did one. It was awesome. And this album obviously blasted her onto the scene. Both this one and the original album, and then the EP. So TikTok, We Are Who We Are, both well known, absolute bangers. A Day to Remember, a band I literally just mentioned in reference to We Came as Romans. They had an album, What Separates Me From You, come out this year. Not my favorite of all of their albums, but I think All I Want is probably the most well-known A Day to Remember song. So I have that on my list, as well as If I Leave from that one, which I think closes the album and is a great way to close down an album. CeeLo Green, Fuck You. I don't even particularly like this song. I did when it first came out, because I was like, I'd say fuck you. But you couldn't go anywhere without hearing this song. So I included it. Sarah Bareilles, King of Anything was this year.
Hey, that was my ringtone for like 4 years.
It's a great song. I really enjoy it, but I mostly left it on my list for you, Dan. I'm just kidding. It would have stayed on there anyway. Katy Perry. I know she had some songs before this album, but I think California Girls is really what blew up for her. Was kind of the first thing that I really remember. And I didn't realize that
I Kissed a Girl, I think, was the biggest song for her before.
So I don't remember ever hearing that song on the radio, though.
Oh, see, it was in the radio all the time.
Yeah,
okay,
everywhere.
Because I remember seeing that one and You're So Gay on YouTube, and I watched the videos a few times for each of those. But I never remember hearing them on the radio. The first thing I really remember was California Girls.
You know,
and
I'm wondering, I've
go
heard you say that a few times, and I'm wondering if it's because, like, so I'm on like college radio. I have like 3 college radio stations here. And so I'm wondering if that might be the difference in like why you heard different stuff maybe than
it might be, because I don't have, I mean, at that time, I guess at that time when I Kissed a Girl came out, I think I was probably still in Messina without much radio outside like
much of anything.
The Bear, classic rock. When this one came out, I was in Plattsburgh going to school at that point, and we had a couple of additional stations you could pick up from like Burlington. So maybe I started hearing more music from a more of a variety, because I think at this point, Gregory, you would have been in Florida by this point, right? In Orlando.
Yeah, I was in Orlando when I Kissed a Girl came out. So
yeah. So that actually kind of makes sense to me now that you pointed out, because Messina had shit all for radio. So yeah, makes sense. I also didn't realize that California Girls and Fireworks were on the same album. To me, in my mind, they're separated by a couple of years.
I think single wise they were.
And so I thought Firework came out on the next album, which is crazy to me. So moving on to the next one, a band I mentioned, I think 2 years ago, Apocalyptica. They had the first song where I ever really heard classical strings and stuff mixed, like full on classical arrangements mixed with kind of heavier vocals with I Don't Care. And that formula worked really well for them, and they continued into the next album. So they have a couple really great songs off the next album that were similar. End of Me, and then I'll mention a couple others later, or one other later. Band of Horses, band I kind of find boring mostly, but I included because they have a song on this album called Dilly.
I love them.
They're fine. I've seen them live. It's not something I get up for, I guess. And so that's kind of my list. Then my short list is all just artists and bands I've already mentioned. Kesha shows up again with Dinosaur. It's the most fun song she's ever made, I think.
It really is.
If you haven't heard it, which you probably haven't, because I don't think many people outside like 6 of us have.
If you haven't heard it, it's because you've never been in the bar where I'm controlling the jukebox.
And then Apocalyptica pops up again. They did a song with Brent Smith, lead singer of Shinedown. off this album called Not Strong Enough. If you like either of those things, classical music or Shinedown, go listen. It's just the best of both worlds, really. It's so good. Neon Trees, I mentioned this album again. I love it. In the Next Room is my favorite song off the album, probably my favorite song they ever did. So that's on my short list. And then my song of the year is Day to Remember, You Be Tails, I'll Be Sonic. This song is one of my depression songs I go to. It's a really fun listen. I didn't even say fun. It's just a great listen when you're feeling a little bit down. It's kind of heavy. The lyrics are kind of like mopey emo style lyrics, and you can really get into your feelings listening to it. And it's one of my favorite that kind of helps me shake that feeling, because I'm the type of person that has to lean into it a little bit.
Makes
And
sense.
this is one of the songs that really helps me lean into the skid there. So A Day to Remember, You Be Tails, I'll Be Sonic.
Beautiful. I didn't see that coming, but it's a nice surprise actually. So
Well, they're like my favorite band of all time, maybe my second favorite. So.
yeah, no, it's awesome. Thank you, Gregory. What do you got for us, my friend?
All right. Unlike Joe, this was a really, really great album for me, or great year for me, but it was only probably a great year for me for like 6 albums that made it impossible to pick tracks off of, because I absolutely just love the artists and the albums. First song I have on my list was a pretty easy one. CeeLo's Fuck You has been mentioned a couple times. Just a really, really fun track. And this was CeeLo's 3rd solo album, and I don't think people realized it. I think they thought he was just coming right off of that stuff with Danger Mouse, because we have to mention Danger Mouse as much as possible. But yeah, he'd been around for a while. He'd been in part of like the greater like Outcast family. So
Goody Mob.
Yeah, it was a good thing to see CeeLo kind of get that recognition. Then Big Boy released Sir Lucius and the Left Foot, and there's this misconception about Big Boy that he's not as fun or creative as Andre 3000. But not only is he just as fun and as creative as Andre 3000, he's 100 times more prolific, being the fact that he releases music regularly and has a new album coming out here soon. A new album that's with him and Sleepy Brown, who, if you don't know Sleepy Brown, you're wrong. You know Sleepy Brown. He's been with Outkast since the beginning. He does a lot of the choruses and vocals.
One of the smoothest voices in the game.
Yeah, Sleepy Brown is so good. So I think it's the big sleepover. I think is going to be that next album for Big Boy. But Tangerine, which features T.I. and Kojo Goody, was just really, really great. Kind of one of those clubs, shake your ass songs. In fact, I think Shake Your Ass Like a Typewriter is the chorus to that one. Be Still with Janelle Monae. Janelle Monae doesn't do much but the chorus in this track, but the chorus is long and she just gets to be so like such lovely vocals on there. And then Fo Yo Sorrows features Too Short, the legendary California rapper, George Clinton, because Outkast loves the funk. And then Sam Chris, who didn't do much, only has a couple tracks out on Spotify, but Sam Chris is great on this too. But it's a very, very funky track, as it should be with George Clinton. And you get Clinton talking about waving his hair and blowing smoke. So you get some classic George Clinton in there. But Be Still and Fo Yo Sorrows is probably my favorite 2-track run of this year. Although it was hard to pick. I think I had 7 favorite 2-track runs of this year, some on multiple albums. Then Janelle Monae, as I said, she released the album. Alive, War of Roses is a great one from her. Oh Maker, which I believe features Big Boy on that. So he returned the favor and showed up on hers. Come Alive, War of the Roses, and then Make the Bus, which features Of Montreal, who I'm not a huge Of Montreal fan, but they also did a song with Solange a couple years ago that was great too, which is a regular like jukebox play of mine. So apparently when they hook up with like a great R&B vocalist, I enjoy Of Montreal. So that's where I like them. But the thing about this is, if you listen to Janelle Monae, you know she can do a lot musically, And I mean, War of Roses is basically sounds like the Violent Femmes played the track for her while she was singing over it. And she's perfect singing over that. Joe mentioned Kesha, who is super important for us. I didn't put her in my short list just because the Dr. Luke thing. Once she breaks away from Dr. Luke, you guys are going to see like on that first album, like how much I love that album. But Your Love Is My Drug, TikTok, Dinosaur, We Are Who We Are, and Blow, which kind of shocks me that Joe left Blow off because it's such a great like dance track as well.
Here I am deleting all of my Kesha from my list.
But again, I try to keep only 3. I try to keep my limit to just 3 from any one artist for a year. So I already had TikTok, Who We Are, and Dinosaur. So that's why I kind of
that's kind of why I didn't put her in my short list, because if I bumped one of these songs off my short list or onto the short list, I probably would have grabbed something else from one of those. Vampire Weekend, Contra was this album. Holiday, I think, is my favorite track off this. I didn't love this Vampire Week album, even though I loved the first. Eels, another band that did double albums. I only have one of them, but End Times is a great album. Tomorrow Morning or the Next Morning is the next one. So, and these are part of a 3 album run for him. So the Next Morning comes after End Times, guys. So just keep that in mind when you're feeling down. But in my younger days in Paradise Blues off of End Times, and I'm a Hummingbird and The Man off of the other one are probably my 4 favorite of that year. But honestly, I just love the Eels. I could pick anything off of this. The Wonder Years, I saw contradicting things. Some places this is their debut album, but they did release an album before this. But you know how it is with punk bands, so I didn't put it on the debut album since I was going to talk about it anyway. This Party Sucks and All My Friends Are in Bar Bands are 2 just great tracks off that debut album. If you listen to that debut album and then like current Wonder Years stuff, they maintain the same level of excellence, I think, throughout that. They're just a really, really great band. Already mentioned Broken Bells. I could just put this on repeat on the turntable all the time. It's such a good album. I'm not a huge Shins fan, but James Mercer like singing over production from Danger Mouse is just really great. The High Road and The Ghost Inside and then October are 3 of my favorite tracks off this. Then we mentioned She and Him a couple years ago with their first album. Not a huge fan of their first album, as you guys know, but the second one I just love. Volume 2. It was hard to pick anything off of this, so I went with Thieves, In the Sun, Don't Look Back, and those are the first 3 tracks on the album. So that is my 3-track run, and that's only slightly how I narrowed it down, was to get the 3-track run off this album, but it could have come off of anything. I mentioned Sleigh Bells and debut album. Kids and Crown on the Ground are just 2 songs I absolutely love on this. Crown on the Ground is another, we mentioned a couple years ago, Childish Gambino sampling a lot of indie bands off his mixtapes. Crown on the Ground is one he samples on I think I'm Not a Rapper 1 for the mixtapes. I like it. Enrique featuring Pitbull. At this point, to me, Enrique, this is when he starts to have like their fun singles to listen to.
Oh yeah.
All right. And
you don't think Escapara is fun to listen to? Come on
now. Lonely Avenue, which is Ben Folds with Nick Hornby. Mm-hmm. Not my favorite Ben Folds album, but it's still fun. Levi Johnson Blues. Levi Johnson, of course, the father of Sarah Palin's grandson. But yeah, so they made a song kind of mocking him. I had really high hopes for this because Nick Hornby is one of my favorite authors. Ben Folds, one of my favorite artists. And Ben Folds is fairly literary himself. Hi, Ani. I'm recording. JoJo's upstairs.
Well, he's in the call too.
Yeah, I'm on the call with him, baby. Go watch your pad.
Well, I don't want to be
Aw.
Tell her to bring
Okay.
her pad in here.
Jojo says to bring his pad in the office. You can sit in mommy's seat.
And Uncle Dan will watch his mouth.
I've got my headphones on. It's fine.
I'll go do that.
Okay, she's going to do that. All right. Night, I love you. Oh, I got an I love you. Earlier, she ignored me. Yeah, so Levi Johnson Blues. I was disappointed in this album. I had high hopes for it. It's good. It's not great, and I wanted great from it. That's me on my expectations. Rihanna, S&M, only girl in the world. Rihanna's just on this run that's killer and is going to stop when she starts doing so much more. So
Yeah.
good for her. One of my favorite albums of all time, and this is still wrapped. And the reason for that is I got it as a gift for someone years ago, and I just haven't mailed it out.
Hey, baby girl.
That person is my dear friend Nicole in Chicago. So if you're playing
Yeah, you can sit in mommy's chair.
playing
baby.
Battle of the Ballads bingo, that is a mention of Nicole in Chicago. So check that one off.
In mommy's chair, I will
But
sit by your
Mystery Zone,
and I'll
written
sit
reverse. I saw the
sit in
light
mommy's
off
chair.
of
You can
this
pull it over here if
album.
you want.
Disappointing thing, especially since we can hear Anya right now. I put the playlist I have for the girls on the Spotify on the TV before dinner, and after dinner, the little one Emmy pressed play. Only it deferred to this Spoon album, and she made halfway through the opening track and said, "I don't like this song." So both girls broke my heart a little bit around dinner time tonight. But and finally, before I get to my short list, I'd mention Childish Gambino. I'm Just a Rapper and I'm Just a Rapper 2 from the mixtapes came out this year. And of course, I think these are like mixtapes 6 and 7 for him. And I didn't talk about them yet. And I mean, I didn't talk about the Kendrick Lamar mixtapes this year because I usually skip mixtapes. But New Crown or New Prince, which is The Crown on the Ground, is on this. And Bitch Look at Me Now, which is the 2 weeks mix as well, are both on those. And I think these are where I fell in love with Gambino. So.
Didn't he release Bonfire that year too?
No, Bonfire is going to be on the actual first album.
Oh, following.
Yeah, it closes the album. So my short list: Riding in My Car and Gonna Get Along Without You Now from She and Him. Riding in My Car, M. Ward and Zooey Deschanel, like they sing together on that, and you don't get a lot of M. Ward singing on She and Him, which is fine. Like he's there to play beautiful music behind Zooey Deschanel. But the two of them together are just great. Everlasting Love from the Black Keys, which I kind of skipped in my list, but I love that Black Keys album too. It was in my list about the time Anya came in, so I kind of skipped over it. But guys, the Brothers album is great. I could have picked anything off this. Everlasting Love would be my favorite. Sleigh Bells, Infinity Guitars is just brilliant. That's my favorite Sleigh Bells song. The Wonder Years, Last Semester is just beautiful. I think it was one of the first Wonder Years songs I fell in love with. And so then to go back and find out it was on their debut album is kind of insane. But my song of the year is off that Spoon album, and it is Love Forever. I think Spoon was a pretty straightforward, like indie alt rock band before this album, and they really start to kind of experiment a little bit musically, which is why they're from this album on are less commercials and less soundtracks. But I think musically they're so much better here. But Is This Love Forever is just a great example of that. I cannot praise this Spoon album enough. I can't praise any Spoon album enough, honestly. But this year, I mean, these albums, like this is why I had so many props this year, because these are albums I just generally fell in love with from the beginning and I'm still in love with. So 2010, probably my favorite year in music since, 2004 was the last Elliott Smith album. So yeah.
Oh my. Spoon making an appearance on the top already to start this decade. I love it. My love for Janelle Monae has already been covered, so I'm not going to dive into the half-hour talk I had on how great Janelle Monae is. So,
was this the year she played the ESPYs?
This was the year she did that. She did, I think it was Wimbledon. She had a live album. I mean, this was all like before she really burst on the scene.
You've got 23 minutes, so go ahead and just dive into it. Just speak fast.
My list is the shortest I have had thus far. It starts with 25 to Life, Not Afraid, Cinderella Man, and Love the Way You Lie from Eminem. I remember when that album came out. I wasn't a huge fan of the album. However, there are a few tracks that have just lasted with me and I've enjoyed more as the years gone on. Invented was the Jimmy Eat World album that came out that year, which is my favorite Jimmy Eat World album from one of my favorite bands. Action Needs an Audience, Coffee and Cigarettes, Mixtape, The Heart is Hard to Find, My Best Theory, amazing songs. And I'm leaving one off intentionally right now.
I left all of that album off so we wouldn't take any from you. So
that is probably in my top 10 albums of all time, to be quite honest. I absolutely adore that album. And it came out in a time where I was grappling with a lot of things in life and figuring out where I was going in my direction. And it served as probably the best therapy I've ever received. So holds a big spot in my heart. DJ Khaled, I guess, gave us All I Do Is Win. Everybody else on the track did, and he gave us another one. So DJ Khaled, All I Do Is Win, All the Lights from Kanye. Bieber gave us Baby and Somebody to Love. And Swiftie there, Today Was a Fairy Tale, Long Live, Travis McCoy with Billionaire, which also featured Bruno on his coming out party. It was also on one of the biggest tracks that wasn't his. Trey Songz gave us Bottoms Up. Ryan Starr gave us Breathe. Again, I cannot reiterate enough how much you need to check out Ryan Starr. He's an amazing songwriter who unfortunately disappeared after a reality show, but has some great content out there. Gary Clark Jr. with Bright Lights, just an incredible guitarist, vocalist, really good songwriter. If you haven't checked out Gary Clark, I recommend it because he's very diverse in terms of the styles that he goes with and the cameos.
And I'll be talking about him next year, so
I will as well. I think Michael Kiwanuka comes up next year, hopefully, if I have my years right. Katy Perry with E.T. and Last Friday Night, the ones that haven't been said. Rihanna with California King Bed, Complicated. Bruno's songs that are left off his list that came off this album: Count on Me, Grenade, Marry You, the Lazy Song. Just the whole album was dynamite, to be honest, start to finish. And his features on that album for being his debut were also incredible. Usher gave us DJ Got Us Fall in Love. Pink with Fucking Perfect, Raise Your Glass. Drake, who I'm really not a big Drake fan, but Find Your Love was on there. And that was a low-key song that just kind of hung on forever. My favorite song off the Sarah Bareilles album was Gonna Get Over You. And that's my drunk song these days. So when I'm drunk and feeling like dancing around the house, that's the song I put on. So picture that in your head, everybody. As well as Uncharted, which is just a great song. The Good Life from One Republic. Enrique's already been said. Kevin Rudolph's I Made It. As lame as this sounds, I was somebody who came from nothing, wasn't supposed to be anything. And the day I was driving to my graduation for grad school, I played that song like on repeat from Chi-Li to Brockport. As lame as that song is too, I don't even know why. It just felt right in the moment. And I just heard it for the first time like week before. And so that song holds significant meaning to me because I legit made it and made myself into where I wanted to go. So that song always just stuck with me. I Need a Doctor from Dr. Dre. Impossible from Chantel. I think it's a song that a lot of people forgot about, but when they hear it again, it's an amazing song. Lay Me Down from the Dirty Heads, featuring Rome. Nicki Minaj, she gave us Moment for Life, Super Bass, and Your Love. She may be out there, but she's got some good tracks. Neo gave us 1 in a Million.
She may be out there, but she's also paying to send people to college. So let's give Minaj some credit.
Yes. Give credit where credit is due. 1 in a Million from Neo, Power from Kanye. And then we had the duel of the solos. We had Riding Solo from Jason Derulo and then Solo from Iyaz. Same time, singles were back to back on the charts. One of them still exists, and hopefully Iyaz got a nice payout from his record label. The Show Goes On from Lupe and You and I from Lady Gaga, which leaves me with 2 songs. I didn't even have a top 10. My final 2 were Little Thing from Jimmy Eat World, which is my favorite song of theirs, and Tightrope from Janelle Monae. And I have to go Little Thing from Jimmy Eat World because it is just hands down my favorite songs of all time. And I absolutely adore it. Not that Janelle's not there. I wanted to do like a 1.5 and 1.5, but Little Thing will probably be my vote going through the entire 2000s, even though it might be the wrong vote. So I got to go Little Thing.
I mean, it was the wrong vote now because Tightrope is just brilliant. That opens the Janelle album?
No, I think it's track 7 on it.
Okay.
But then she re-releases it a year later, which is where it'll probably come up for my song of the year. This was the first we saw of it. Actually, she released it again in, I think, 2011 when she got on the mainstream stage. So there was a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, that is the next year. Yes. So 2011 is when it became on her main label, but this was the first we knew of it. So I guess it'll be an honorable mention for now and probably my song of the year next year. So,
I'm glad you worked in I Need a Doctor, because it, like, since that third Dr. Dre album's never going to come out, we're never going to get that song on an actual album. So I'm glad you worked it in here.
Yeah, it's done.
Because it is a phenomenal track. So
and the production on it is actually really what I've always found the most significant thing about it, because I think a lot of people forget, like, yeah, he's a rapper, but he was producer, all that stuff too. And it shows on there because he took creative control over a lot of that stuff. So it's interesting on that one song, but yeah, so I had to give it a little thing. And I just looked back on 2011. I'm not going to spoil my pick, but yeah, I already said my pick for next year. I'll go me on my even shorter list. So we made it through another year. We have, a good amount in front of us here, and an end date in sight where we will get a year in review. And then these will be year-end check-ins kind of things, besides our Disney and Canadian and all this other band stuff. But we want to hear from you. Is there any sort of musical topics we haven't covered that you'd like us to cover? Any sort of list you'd like us to go down? We can make it fun and shit, get us into polka. Let's see what else is out there to explore, if there's anything you're interested in.
also,
in addition to lists or whatever, I think it'd be interesting to do like some sort of musical challenge where it's like, I don't know, some sort of scavenger hunt of music from the fans. If they come up with like really obscure stuff and they're like sending us on like these wild goose chases of music, that'd be really awesome. And we give like reactions to them.
Like, you want me to track down Heini Kamosi in Hawaii? I'm in. I got this.
well, another thing, because Joe mentioned one of his depression albums and Dan mentioned the album that was the best therapy of his life. And in 2002 and 2003, we basically talked about all my tracks that bring tears to my eyes with the death of April. So I'm just curious, probably you should use at least 6 words in your comments, either here on YouTube or on one of our Facebooks. But what are the songs you guys are your go-to? I need to listen to something because I'm in a mood.
Yeah.
Like angry, sad, depressed. Like, what are yours? I'm in my feels. I need to listen to something, whether it's albums, artists, or tracks. I'm just really curious what everyone else's is. I think if this is one of those like weirdly super intimate, not intimate things you can share with someone, because you're somehow letting them into a deep part of you without really letting them into a deep part of you. So I'm just really curious what everyone else is listening to.
You know what? Let's take it a step further. Throw it out there. We'll make a playlist for it that we can all add it to. And then therapeutic playlist for all. Courtesy of the brain factory of Gregory Dilcox and the Spotify skills of Joseph Dilcox, and we'll make it happen.
Now I get to be the idea man in this, and Joe's got to do the work.
Yeah, luckily Spotify is super user friendly.
And you say that as it took me an hour to make today's playlist after you edit. All of your songs are on there as are mine, and they are ready to go. And we will share the playlist on our post in the morning. Any plugs for you folks as we move forward here?
AmandaIrwin.com. Go check out Amanda's work.
For me, this is my 3rd night in a row recording. Dan's 2nd night in a row, because one of those recordings was with Dan. But My Friends Like Cool Shit is back. I'm trying to line up some more interviews behind the 2 I've already got. But my dear friend Amy, who's been mentioned on the pod when she asked me about naming a frog, and I read that text out loud here, and we helped her name a frog on this pod. But yeah, she has finished her MCU watch, and she found a very distinct order she's been following and watched literally everything. The ABC shows, the Netflix shows, the Hulu shows, the ABC family shows. Like, she has watched it all. And so we talk about the experience of going through that, and she shares how many spoilers she managed to get in that 4.5 years. A real fun talk, because unlike Dan and I, who you can hear on No Coast Defenders talking this stuff, she's not a comic book fan. She has very little comic book knowledge. So it's fun to hear her perspective on this MCU journey and how it's progressed. And then Dan, as anyone who's followed him on any of the social medias knows, he's really recently experienced Harry Potter movies with his daughter for the first time. and he was kind enough to come talk about that. So really nice things to look for. Friday, the one with Amy will drop, and the next Friday, the one with Dan will drop. So you'll be able to hear Dan and I 3 more times between then and now, since No Coast Defenders will be returning next week as well. So,
and you also got me yelled at by my child because she wanted to know why she was not asked about her opinion of Harry Potter. So you may have another guest in the future.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It really, really would. And as a little spoiler tease, we talked about just how wonderfully opinionated and all of it coming from herself that Zoe is. So
my shout out's just No Coast Defenders as well. It's going to be ramping up, and I think we'll have pretty consistent contact for a while, especially with what's coming in 2022. I like to caution folks to not spoil things for other people with all these things coming up in the comic book universe and movies and things like that, with trailers and all that stuff. So if you see something, you may have a friend who doesn't want to necessarily see it. So spoiler alerts there. Also, we are in prime time debilitating mood season. Smile at somebody, hold the door for somebody, say I see you, and just let the world know that you're existing and you see their existence, and that can go a long way. Not going to go into a long spiel, just be kind to one another, love one another, and really that'll go a long way. And also for our fellow YouTubers here, Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy, is doing a 1,000 subscriber giveaway where go check out his page. It's Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy. He has built up so many pages, and now it's his turn to get to 1,000. He's doing a giveaway. I contributed to it. Other YouTubers have also contributed to it. It's a comic book collectible giveaway. He's only like, I think, 100 followers away right now. And he started his YouTube channel to show his kid that if you put your mind to something, you can do it. And he's been doing it, and it's awesome. He's built the community. He's helped connect so many other people in such a good way in such a toxic environment. He's eliminated all of that and just done some wonderful stuff. So check out Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy. Give him a follow. You may not be into comic book stuff like that, but he also does just really cool stuff for YouTube channels and people in general. Such an awesome human. I'm lucky to know him. He's local in my area. So that's my spiel. Now, gentlemen, 2011.
Did we tell everyone to like, comment, and subscribe yet? I don't think we did.
in the beginning of the video, no, Dan did, but we haven't done it. We haven't done it multiple times. So if you want
we haven't done it, we haven't done it in the last 10 minutes. So
if you want to tell people to like, comment, and subscribe, Joe, I think this is the perfect time for you to do so.
I think we spent so much time talking about 6-word comments, but really liking, commenting, and subscribing is the best way to make sure you get the videos, right?
And actually on YouTube, the commenting is really what gets it. I found out through the algorithm. So
and just make sure your comments are 6 words there too, just to make sure it's safe.
But likes on the algorithms mean very little. It's subscribing and commenting
and watch time.
Well, watch time, but
our watch times are there. So thank you for leaving us on, even if it's like you forget about it and just walk away. We appreciate it. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us and participating. And we're going to start leaving 6-word comments to get more people in the mix. Because today I had like, hey, are you doing a show? Yes, sorry you missed it, because they didn't see it. So we'll be doing that. There's shit that Greg posts that has me tagged and I don't even see until 4 days later. So
we're going to do very little. So
yes, so we're going to work on it. I promise. If anybody felt left out this week, I do apologize. Comment your list on the actual video, and that'll make sure we see it. And I'll tag you the next time around so that at least you'll see it. Everybody else won't, but we'll get it in. Until next time, much love, everybody. Gregory, Joseph, it's been a blast as always.
Yeah, and obviously we appreciate any likes, comments at all, no matter the length, but we will super appreciate 6-word comments, but we'll even more appreciate if you guys want to write a haiku comment.
Counting every word now, and if you don't leave 6 words, you're dead to me.
The 3-song stretch is now turned into a haiku. There we have it. Good evening, folks.